Hello everyone, welcome to ASEAN Pacific shows today. In this episode today, we are going to talk about the role of the Quad in Indo-Pacific and US from India. My guest is Farijuddin Khan from India also. Farijuddin is currently assistant professor at the Department of Political Science, Imphal College, Imphal affiliated with Manipur University, India. He teaches international politics, India's national security and foreign policy, and Indian government and politics to graduate and undergraduate students. He is also a doctoral candidate, a senior research fellow at the U.S. Studies Program Center for Canadian and U.S. and Latin America Studies, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, India. Welcome, Farijuddin. Thank you for joining my show today.
Thank you, Karadag. Thank you for inviting and thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Now, the Quad is most important military alliance in Asia, and India perhaps the most important member of the Quad alliance system. Now, let me ask you about what are the common areas that members have unanimously agreed on strengthen the Quad in Indo-Pacific region.
Yeah. Good evening to all the viewers. Before I answer your questions, I just want to, put in the perspective about the significance of Quad and what comes to the region Indo-Pacific. Previously it was Asia-Pacific. Quad is actually an informal grouping with security concerns and other related areas. That is very important. Its primary focus is on the confluence of two oceans, the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean. And for India in particular, the Indian Ocean region is very important. And similarly for the other four countries, that is the United States, Australia and Japan, Pacific Ocean is also important. So it's a confluence of two big oceans. And this is where it has become a maritime, the theater of conflicts between great power for great power. So the geopolitics of the Indo-Pacific region is very much important, particularly in this technological age of 21st century, where the great power politics is happening and it's going to elongate for at least half of the century. Now, coming back to your questions. Some of the convergence areas where these four nations, are working together, have with a certain level of commonality in their interest orientations, are free and open Indo-Pacific region. That means that the region is not only free for navigations, but it's also open with rule-based, with rule of law and shared values, democratic values. The second thing is that it is about connectivity in the region. So in terms of when it comes to concerns about connectivity between various choke points in the maritime region of Indian Ocean and the Pacific Oceans, from one continent to another continents, covering largely three continents of Asia, Africa, and other North American continent. The connectivity is very important, and these four countries have certainly common interests when it comes to addressing connectivity issues. The third, I would think, is about climate change issues. And as we know, there was a conference physical conference between these three leaders. Prime Minister Modi was also there in Washington with President Biden of the United States as the host, and they were addressing the climate change issues. They were talking about green shipping, facilities, shipping facilities which promotes sustainability and ecology, which addresses ecological concerns. Other areas is, the most, I would say, the primary area, apart from what I have said, the three areas is concern about, Chinese adventurism in this region, and particularly for India in the southern Indian Ocean. And when it comes to this, curbing or preventing or containing China, the recent, March 2021 Quadrilateral Security Summit in Washington, they were not naming China as the main adversary or main concern. Actually, but it was from so many the speech, from the statements, from their joint statement, from gestures of many policymakers in Washington, in capital city corridors of these four nations. It was obvious that China was the main concern, and security related to China is the main concern, and is main convergent point also area also for these four nations.
So, Farid, now regarding the military dimension of the Quad, what are the position of four members, and do members require further strategic alignment to channel to a uniform military outlook when responding to China's expansion?
Yeah, coming back to related to as a corollary to what question you asked in the first about the convergence. There are certain I would not use the word divergence, but there are certain areas where the convergence is not happening also, and there are very few compared to the areas where I have mentioned where confluence or convergence has happening. Confluence of interest is happening between among the four Quad members. Regarding the military dimension you are asking about, Quad, the four members, when it comes to maritime security, addressing maritime security cooperation, and addressing the Chinese expansionism in many theaters, geopolitical theaters of Indo-Pacific, they have different opinions, modalities, but the challenge, the objectives of maritime security is very clear. That is, somehow addressing China's expansionism, aggression in the name of anti-piracy, in the name of developing their own military preparedness. So some of the concerns that in the areas where these four nations have seemingly less alignment is obviously in terms of cooperation with suppose in terms of cooperation in joint economic or trade partnership within the Quad. I think four of them have moderate views or moderate alignment as compared to other alignment when it comes to climate change, when it comes to have a free and open Indo-Pacific rules-based regional order connectivity. Unlike that, it's a moderate kind of confluence when it comes to economic and trade partnership within the Quad and other areas. So the second question, it comes to the second question of your larger question, which is do members require further strategic alignment to channel uniform military outcome? I have the view also that yes, they need more alignment because given the fact that China is not a belligerent power like a Cold War, belligerent power of the West, that is the former erstwhile Soviet Union, where they have a specific ideology dominated by communism, guided by communism, and they have aligned structure in the name of Warsaw Pact vis-a-vis NATO structure. So China doesn't have a military pact which can actually outwardly challenge the US-led global security architecture or Quad. It is actually using the name of what to say, centuries of cultural humiliation. So sometimes victim card is also played while they are continuing with China is continuing with various sorts of military adventurism, maritime military adventurism, then lane-based military adventurism in Himalayan region with India, the longest border country with China. So it has many manifestations, and when it comes to Chinese manifestations, security, the military form of strategic alignment among the four in the Quad has to be a uniform military outlook is needed. I think it is there, the structure is there, but when it comes to challenging, China head on, the US sounds very positive. The US sounds very aggressive, but among the four, India sounds kind of like, no, we don't want to have a military structure. Quad cannot be a military structure of Cold War era. We cannot head on military challenge China. So India has its own interest of saying such thing, and certain level of discontinuity in the alignment agreement is there. and India is also a factor also. But this is a positive factor when it comes to India's interest. But when it comes to Quad, there can be a question also. So I would say, to answer, I would say that there is cooperation. Cooperate. What could be done by the four members, to further their strategic alignment. The number one point is to cooperate with other regional or sub-regional aligned structure or security architecture. For example, when Quad was formed, and then subsequently in August, a few months back or recently, when Quad was formed, and it was formed as in response to 2004 tsunami in Indian Ocean. But again, it was revived in 2007 after its dormant stage. Now, it was when it was formed, the ASEAN centrality, that ASEAN will be the central of the Southeast Asian. ASEAN will be the main regional, what to say, associations to maintain peace and security in the Southeast Asian. ASEAN region had some kind of skepticism or some kind of doubt. And I think the Quad members, particularly India and the United States, the two countries, including Japan, also should address this. And it should address this by cooperating with this kind of regional, sub-regional. Second thing is that, and it should support ASEAN centrality in the region also. It should support AUKUS. It should, again, allay fears not only with ASEAN, but other regional in Indo-Pacific regions, also other organizations. And lastly, uh, military component has to be very. For example, we have a annual exercise. It started with United States and India, the Malabar exercises. It started in 1992. Now it has slowly, gradually increased, and Japan is also included. Australia is also included. We recently had Malabar exercises, naval exercises. US and India has some exercises named Tiger, some exercises, naval exercises. So this exercise has to evolve. This exercise has to be aggressive to have a full-time confidence or more confidence in case Chinese expansionism is converting into kind of confrontational mode. So these are the things that I think that the Quad has to inculcate, and Quad has to do to improve its security alignment.
So when we're talking about the importance and significance of the Quad security dialogue, what is the significance of Quad in India's strategic calculation, and how far it can anchor India's national interest in Indian Ocean region?
Yeah, I was touching upon this point also, but again, I have to elaborate more on this. This is a very pertinent question because as an Indian, as an Indian strategic analyst, people, among the students, among the scholars, among strategic community in India and other neighboring states also, this question has often been asked. But in the beginning, this question was not well articulated. But now India has a good opportunity, because India's opportunity to be part of the Quad security architecture, Quad groupings, has its advantages. And these advantages derive solely from India's interest in the Indian Ocean region and in the larger Indo-Pacific region. For example, you are talking about significance of Quad in India's strategic calculation. Uh, you know, if we see China, okay, because that is the main concern. But even though China has not been named in any Quad meetings, except that it was happening in 2020 ministers meeting in Tokyo. So China was not mentioned. But even though, if you look at Chinese expansionism and Chinese aggressive maneuver, what in vain and this thing, if you see in South China Sea, China is claiming all the atolls, all the islands, the main two islands, practice. So it is challenging with so many, Southeast Asian countries. If you see in East Asia, with Japan, about Diaoyu Island or Senkaku Islands, about China's imposition of no-fly zone. Uh, if you see in India, in the Indian context, particularly in the Himalayan region, we had so many border wars. So border wars started, become increasing in frequency and with worse outcomes in the recent in the last decade. For example, in 2013, in the India-China border, Depsang. If you see in 2017, the tri-country junction, trilateral junction of Doklam between India and Bhutan and Nepal, Doklam. So Chinese PLA forces were actually aggressive. They were crossing Indian borders and writing so many stuff that goes against Indian ethos and Indian security concerns. And if we look at 2020, 21, Galwan Valley, in the eastern sector, eastern Ladakh sector, in the northern, in the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, and in the Ladakh Union Territory, the way the PLA have encroached into Indian territories and the way there was confrontation, and the outcome was very bad, particularly, especially in the Indian side, and Indian strategic community have to, give up their, restrained kind of nature. So the Indian Prime Minister and Indian security uh, forces were giving an alert, and it not only there in the Himalayan region. So Himalayan region has become sort of like Chinese, playground to poke India into saying something or into doing something which is not good for the bilateral relations between India and China. And if you look into southern Indian Ocean, which India considers as the one of the areas of where core national interest, the most important national interests are concerned, India considered as one of the top priorities of its national security interests. The way PLA Navy, the Chinese Navy, encroached into in the southern tip, Andaman and Nicobar Islands in the garb of in disguise of you know anti-piracy operations. The way Chinese military build-up is there in western coast of Indo-Pacific, in Djibouti, the encirclement policies, particularly in border in Pakistan and Hambantota in Sri Lanka. I would say that there are successful endeavors in Myanmar also, but more importantly in Hambantota, in Sri Lanka and border. I would say that is very, a successful endeavor by China. Having said that, China is also as a part of its BRI Belt and Road Initiative, which India have also rejected, because it encroaches India's concerns when regarding its border with Pakistan. So many things. These are actually, India's concern, touching India's core interest, and it's done at the behest of one country, enabling Asian powers at one point of time. In the Nehruvian era, it was Indi, Chini, Bhai, Bhai, and now it has become the worst, the biggest enemy, adversary of India, and biggest, revisionist power in the Indo-Pacific region. So to challenge this, to address India's core national interest is India's priority from the citizen point of view, from the strategic calculations, from the strategic, thinkers' point of view. It is very important for Indian strategic community to address this, and by and we know it that India, solely cannot counter this. China having at the background, the Chinese massive economy, its military build-up. So India has to somehow counter it, and the best way to counter is by joining Quad with like-minded countries, and one of the biggest superpower, one of the fiercest superpower in the world, in the military history, the United States. So it is in the India's interest that India has to join a Quad, and it gives India an opportunity to reorient its power status from a middle power to one of the great powers in the Indo-Pacific region. So I would see that this Quad, joining of Quad, and whatever the Quad joint statements are, it is totally in toto with what India's strategic calculation is, and it can, regarding our national interest in the Indian Ocean, protecting the Indian Ocean, particularly the southern Indian Ocean, is the most primary, national interest, maritime national interest of India. And whatever the country, whether it is China or any other revisionist power, India will do anything by joining or not joining Quad to counter, to address such security concerns.
Now, Farijuddin, what are you talking about the challenges and the situation that India faces and about the China's expansionism? So, what are India's position and role in strengthening military and military dimension cooperation in trade and partnership in this framework?
Uh, as far as India's role in strengthening military dimension is concerned, we have a bilateral relations with the United States, and it is apart from economic relations, and other sort of relations, trade and economic relations, we have military relationships, and this military agreements, through agreements, military treaties and agreements with the United States and India, U.S.-India agreements, military agreements consist of, addressing, India's security concerns. It consists of, agreements on logistic exchange. It consists of agreements on communications, improving communication channel between the United States and Indian armed forces, and also with leaders. It includes, uh, military, buying and selling, military, technology exchanges. So many things we have, and general security concerns, also information sharing, intelligence information sharing. From intelligence sharing, agreement, to logistic exchange, to cyber security, to space development. India has military, and it has military. They all have military dimensions. So it has robust agreements with the United States, when it comes to military dimensions. We have similar agreements with Australia also, and because Australia is also a country which is facing so many challenges from China when it comes to addressing its own security concerns in its periphery in southern Pacific, where Chinese Navy has started built up naval bases in Kiribati, in around Solomon Islands. So it has so many security challenges. So India and Australia has yeah, what to say, step up its bilateral relationship from a mere bilateral relationship to comprehensive strategic relationship. With Japan, we have strategic relationships from long time. Prime Minister Suga and Prime Minister Modi had secret meeting during 2021, March 2021 Quad meetings. So we have robust, security dimensions, security backed with strength to strengthen our military dimension. What India's position is this vis-a-vis what is, completely different from what the United States, or what Australia, or for that matter, Japan is wishing, or wish to achieve from India, because India's mindset, India's calculations, India's opinion about joining Quad has so many commonality when it comes to addressing its security concern vis-a-vis Chinese adventurism, Chinese, I would say, misadventurism in many regions, in Himalayan region, in Indian Ocean region, and other parts. But India's opinion, India's thought is that it doesn't see Quad as a formal, military structure in the form of NATO, or in the form of Warsaw, or any other military structure which happened in, pre First World War, 19th century military European security or military architecture or organization. India doesn't see it, and if India is asked to join a military, military, they can do military exercises, but India is asked by the United States or any three of these members to join a formal military structure within the Quad. I don't think immediately India will respond to it positively, because India always see it is a platform to deal with China in a different matter. And for that matter, India doesn't want to confront with China head on militarily. It wants diplomatic, it wants other channels, and it wants to confront China to address its security concerns along with these members. It doesn't want, solely to confront militarily, because it will not be in India's interest. So, regarding India's position, its position is very clear. What is formal, place of meeting, formal platform to address so many challenges. Military, it has military dimensions also, but at the same time, India doesn't see it as a formal military structure in terms of NATO or any other organizations that is military organization that is existing in India or that had already existed in the history. Yeah.
Now, Farijuddin, the factors that could hamper Quad's active cooperation to make the Indo-Pacific region not only the free and open, but also maintain stability and the security in the region.
So, can you repeat the questions, please? No, the question. Can you repeat the questions? The question.
Could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you repeat the question?
Yes. What are the factors that could hamper the Quad's active cooperation to make the Indo-Pacific region not only free and open, but also the maintain stability and the security in the region?
Yeah. So security and stability, maintaining security and stability along with free and open sea lanes of communications, along with development of the Indo-Pacific regions and its littoral states is one of they are combined mandate or they are combined goals of the Quad groupings. So apart from this free and open mandate, they have to maintain stability and security. And for this, we were talking about so many military exercises among these four groupings. So some of the barriers, that I think, in my opinion, that Quad active cooperation, which is existing right now, could be hampered, is their number one, you know, uh, China factor, because if the Quad is focusing solely, main focus is on China and its Chinese adventurism to contain China, then China it has to understand, it has to orient its ways and methods, consensually first, and it has to study China. I think there's lots of people can just guess what China is doing also, but at the same time, the orientation has to match what China is behaving. China is not behaving, as I have mentioned before, also as a revisionist power of Cold War mentality or pre-Cold War mentality. China is not the Soviet Union. It is an authoritarian state-run capitalism. It is challenging the American capitalism, Western capitalism. So it has many dimensions. It's Belt and Road Initiative, which the United States termed as corrupted, full of coercion, corruption, things. Is, if not all successful right now, it's successful. Many countries are buying it. The kind of methodology, and China is also not using any organizations, to confront the US led any organizations, be that Quad or any other organizations. So China is behaving a very shrewdly, in the sense that its sphere of influence or its spheres of interest or its sphere of possible conflicting areas are in East Asia, Southeast Asia, and to an extent, the Indian Ocean. So it is not, openly. It may have inside their motivations also. I'm sure about it, but it is not openly stating, or it is not openly showing off that that the U.S. hegemony will be challenged everywhere, be in the Pacific, be in African, or any other Atlantic Ocean. It is focusing on its neighborhoods, in particular in South China and East Asia, and to an extent Indian Ocean. So China is behaving in a very shrewd way that so that if the United States start in aggressive posture or start doing confrontational mode, China can always go back to the United States or any other global platform. G20 is also there to scold, to expose the United States or any other country. So it's behaving in a very shrewdly. It doesn't hide its talents, but it is showing through its actions everywhere. So this is where the Quad, the methods of modus operandi of how to challenge Chinese aggression, how to contain China's quest for regional status, to change regional status quo, to quest for challenging the rule based established international order, has to be studied. because China is a revisionist power, but it is behaving in a different way. So the four countries have to first, cooperate, and it has a consensual, some sort of like SOPs as to how, if any action of China in any theaters in the Indo-Pacific is to be challenged. It has to have a very common ground on that. I think that is, some way it is missing right now in this present, security setup. And other factor that I think it is lagging is also like kind of like heavy public opinion is also there. For example, unlike India, Australia, or in particular Japan have a mutual defense treaty with the United States. So if anything, if any power, whether it is a conventional attack or nuclear attack to the Japan, not only China, any country attack China, the United States will provide a security umbrella, which India and United States doesn't have. Australia has more robust, military back with, the United States, which India doesn't have. So if suppose the China attacks there is a border war escalates in the Himalayan region between China and India is being attacked, then what are the response? What would be the response from Quad members, particularly the United States? I don't think that has not been made public, if at all there is something in the official circles, but it has not been made public. So I think making it public through a treaty, I think that kind of level has been lagging. And although we have seen lots of commonalities between among these four states, including India, four member states, India, the bilateral military dimensions when it comes to India, Australia, US, Japan, Australia. I think they have different bilateral treaties when it comes to military dimensions. So China is going to take advantage of it, and I think Chinese maneuvers, Chinese intentions are very, 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 very shrewd. It's not black and white; it's gray area, and this is where the Quad challenges would be. I can't hear you. I think you're mute.
Oh, sorry, I muted my microphone. I would like to ask one additional question about the Quad. A war case under the current framework of the Quad, if any, the war case or escalation over the Himalaya, other the member of Quad will involve it to the war between India and China.
That there is, I can't say a specific answer to that because there is no commitment as such. I've already mentioned about it. Yes, maybe, may not be. When India and Pakistan were fighting, India and China were fighting in 1962 border war. The U.S. This thing, war vessel, the aircraft carrier was there in the Bay of Bengal. When India and Pakistan was fighting, US were trying to, moving its fleet around the Indian Ocean. So it could be interpreted in different ways. Pakistani would interpret in different ways. India would interpret. So it's kind of like very, in the middle. So India could interpret. So, and that is happening because unlike the US, Japan mutual defense treaty, which lays down what are the specific, responses US will do in case Japan is attacked, or the US is attacked. There is a war between US and any other. What are the specific things that Japan will do? We don't have a pact with any of these countries, particularly the United States. We don't have. So the kind of level interaction that Australia and US is having, US and Japan is having, India is lacking. Even though even in the AUKUS also, the kind of special relationship the US has with the UK, the United Kingdom, maybe some Asian countries doesn't have. India, of course, doesn't have. So I don't think, I cannot say anything US. We hope that US or any other country will help in that case. But again, that is also a kind of testing, method. That is also a kind of, uh, you know, uh, question that the Chinese strategic community must be asking to themselves also. So one of the reasons that I assume, that is not fact, that how China is, in the last decade, starting from say around 2012, 13, frequent attacks on Indian borders along the line of actual control (LAC) with India and China is to check India's response, or to check, more importantly, to check US or Japan or Australia or any other like-minded that China considers India is close to. So it may be a tactic by China, because the way China suddenly attacks, then they through an agreement they become the, like, what do you say, they take credit also, that we are the first one to pull out our troops. So they send PLA inside Indian territory, do something, then there's an escalation of conflict, then US will say something, then China suddenly draws off the conflict and it takes credit. Yeah, we want peace, but India should be blaming India. So this may be one of the tactics where that China get used to know about India, about India's response system, and more particularly the response system of such security architecture like Quad, the Indo-Pacific. I can talk more and more. So if you have any questions or any things that we can elaborate, since we have some time, so that we can speak on it.
Farijuddin, now your screen is freezing. I think there is a connection problem. Could you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, I can hear you. There is no the voice problem, but your screen now currently are freezing.
Can you hear me?
I think a camera issue or connection issue.
I think everything is fixed. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but just your screen is currently not moving. It must be a connection problem. Yes, there was a connection problem, I think. Now I'm waiting for my guest if he can join us again.
Sorry.
Okay, now it's okay. Now I come to end of my last question. Could you, when we're talking about the Quad and the current framework of Quad and the situation between these four countries, is it possible to talking about any suggestion for the existing modality of Quad?
Okay. Regarding existing modalities, I would say that the kind of the cooperation has to evolve. It has to have. It has to. Am I audible? Am I
Yes,
audible?
yes. Now I can hear you, but little bit the connection problem. Now it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Am I audible? Okay. So, regarding the modalities, suggestions that I would say is that it has to evolve, to a very specific time frame. For example, when it comes to cooperation with suppose they have vaccine diplomacy that was introduced, or India will produce one of the biggest, vaccine vaccines for COVID patients. So, like this, there should be a specific time frame and specific modalities to deal with any maritime or land security in the Indo-Pacific regions. Some certain things, what could be the framework, what could be the contributions, something like that. The modalities to be fixed. The modalities have to be fixed. That is what I feel. Apart from that, from the Indian perspective, views view.
Farijuddin, I think there is,
I think for India, Quad is an evolving.
I think still we have a connection problem.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, yes, now it's okay.
Okay, I don't know. I think you have connection problem also because your screen gets blank sometimes also. So it's happening both sides. Uh, some of the, for example, India's you know pillars to address, for example, the Sagar security and growth for all in the region, Indo-Pacific, initiatives, Indo-Pacific Ocean initiatives uh, have to have a confluence with, some of the pillars set by the member countries also. And there are specific modalities, as to how certain kind of conflictual situations is to be addressed by these four countries, is meant to be public. And there are lots of things particularly when it comes to addressing peace and security challenges in the Indo-Pacific, which the four countries have to sit together and look into. The modalities that the structure that is right now as a Quad, it's evolving, and structurally, when from the top to bottom, it's looking fine. But at the same time, from the policy, confluence or policy aggregation, I think the modalities is to be very concrete. It has to be made public, so that the practitioners of diplomacy and non-practitioners can do more research, can put more suggestions, so that it has to be very, very open and made public. That's the only thing. But structure wise, I think it's an evolving thing. We can't say much, and it's a great thing for India. It serves India's interest. That's what I can say.
Okay, thank you very much, Farijuddin. Thank you for joining me today also,
Thank
and
you.
talking to my shows about the Quad and the latest, the framework of Quad and the importance of India among these members.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure, and I'll see you again. Hopefully.
Thank you very much. Thank you for my audiences. Please don't forget to subscribe to channel and share our videos with your networks. Please stay tuned until the next show.